start to get into it, look at films, get ready for game one. How much of this feels like something new versus maybe more of a part two, just given how familiar these teams are?
The newness is just the context in terms of the structure of what we do between series. It'd be identical to what we always do, so we don't add anything. We certainly don't subtract anything. We just want to make, you're constantly looking to improve. At the same time, now is not the time to be introducing a whole lot of new things.
Paul, we saw the photos and videos you guys yesterday doing the walk for the Gautreau brothers. Can you speak to just the importance of doing that? And obviously, we know how important that was for Matthew, for you guys to do that as a team.
Matthew and Sam Bennett as well, and Bill Zito and all the connections to Columbus. So well done. It really goes to the soul of our game, the connections cross-team between players, the community of the National Hockey League, that it's so important to show that support and be a part of it. But really well done, I thought, for all the spouses, significant others, and kids came in. It was a good time to see family in hockey and kind of be a part of that bigger hockey family at the same time.
Paul, at this time of year, when the good luck texts and calls and things of that nature from coaching peers and whatnot pick up, one, how do you handle all of that when you have kind of an important job to do right now? And two, where do you find the fun in the very serious work that comes with playing in the final round?
I'm not particularly well liked, so that part's the volume of text is very, very simple. Jamie Compon has an issue, right? He has to block out hours of his day. He's figured out that after games, if he starts texting about 1 a.m, then he doesn't have to answer. He doesn't get into a chain of communication with 40 people. So he's at about 300. I'm nowhere near that. So that part's good. And then, you enjoy every day of it. The intensity of the games, is coming, and you look forward to it. You can't live in that environment in between days. That's just being around people. So I would imagine Edmonton's the same. You've had all the success you can possibly have up to this point, but no more. So you get to come to the rink in a really good mood, right? Both teams won their last game. Both teams won the last series. So you get to enjoy your downtime together. It gets to be final's different because everything expands on you, the number of people, the amount of scrutiny, all of that. So you work pretty hard at making sure that kind of inner core doesn't expand too much, other than likable people's texts. They deal with something I don't have to. Well, I'm not the scourge of the earth. I mean, I have some things. A bit more than that, yeah. You hear from family, it's nice.
Paul, you kind of touched on it a little bit at the end, but what's the message, I guess, maybe from you and the other coaches or from the players to each other, to the guys who haven't played in the Stanley Cup final, about just what to expect, both the fanfare, on the ice, kind of the whole ordeal?
So specifically from the coaches, there would be no extra message because it is, in the end, just about the hockey. And then all the things that happen in the room, that's a player's kind of, players always learn more from the guy sitting beside them than from the coach, right? The nuances of the game, but also the nuances of how to live in this environment. And they get kind of that comfort level comes from the community idea, and then the shelter of that community. This is the way we move, and this is how we do things. So I'd be very hockey focused and not overly. We've been to this stage a couple of times, so we have some experience with it, and allow that experience to kind of handle a lot of it.
Coach, hopefully not to sound repetitive, but kind of along the lines of what Tim was asking, when you have the type of break you do before the start of the final series, when does it kind of go from routine and meetings and media availability to the adrenaline rush and the excitement and maybe the nerves and kind of the emotional feeling that goes along with once again being able to play in the Stanley Cup final?
I think there's probably, depending on your block of time, we've both had pretty similar block of times. We've got a travel day after our last day, a pure day off, and the next day in, we skated yesterday. That would be the trough of emotion. Not that it was down, it's just I'm not barking at them on the ice. We are trying to get to a certain pace, but you're not driving intensity into that day. And then today more, we've got kind of a split group idea today, but the heavy block of video will be today and tomorrow, and that's when it'll start to build. Everybody's eyes are on the screen. They start to add that. And then you're not even controlling it after. It's just coming whether you like it. The juice is coming, right? You're going to be wired in the morning, don't need a lot of coffee. You'll just be ready at night. So it's coming. We wouldn't introduce that in the first 3 days. I'd be careful about not trying to wind them up a week before.
Paul, obviously, nobody's 100% at this time of the season, probably including the coaches. But are you confident by Wednesday that everybody is going to be ready to go in your mind, getting through these practices and that?
There'll be a question mark on A.J. Greer. Other than that, everybody's ready to go now. So we'll have a full group.
There's one that you're...
There's only one that we'll watch.
Okay. Oyster Rainin is fine?
Yeah, he's out there today. He's ready to go. Okay. Tomorrow will be, so you know, tomorrow will be a full day. If somebody doesn't warm up right in the gym, and that's kind of the way we do it, sometimes the guy's 100% behind it, he just can't get his back to loosen up, we just don't put him on the ice. Other than that, I'm expecting full lineup tomorrow.
I know you talked about not changing anything that you guys do or introducing anything new at this point, but when you look at that team up in Edmonton this year, what's maybe different about the way that they've played here down the stretch?
I think, I'm going to say that both teams are deeper this year. So that's a change for them, for us. I think they are further along in their defensive structure, and we are actually a little further along in our offensive structure. So both teams have kind of, and when you look at the strengths, clearly last year we'd say their offensive game was elite. They put an 8 on us one night so they can score some goals. And then, but our defensive structure is pretty good too. Those were our strengths, and then we've just added to what might have been perceived as our weaknesses. We've gotten better at those. So both teams are better, both teams are deeper. Both teams, I think, have made improvements on what would be their weaknesses, but they've maintained their core strength in doing so.
Paul, this is kind of an offshoot of her question. I was going to ask you over the course of a 7-game series last year, what you learned about the Oilers that you can use moving forward.
Well, that'd be top secret. I wouldn't be sharing all that. No, I think, I'm trying to find the right word, because I'm not going to say adjustments are overrated, but I believe the vast majority of adjustments that are made at this time of year are a return to form. You're not taking what you've done and saying, okay, that won't work here. We've got to use something completely different. What we would say is, wow, this is the critical piece to our forecheck. We have to look at it, another piece. This team is going to make something else happen next, so we've got to be over top of that on this situation. And if what you don't like in your game, it won't be, well, that didn't work, let's try something brand new. So there's a reason that didn't work, and there's a piece of your game that's not right. So I think this series might be different, but it seemed to me the hockey actually doesn't get better as it goes on, because the wear and tear on these guys by the time they get to that 2-month battle is what both teams will probably try to do, play as simple a game as they possibly can, because mentally you can handle that. Mentally you can process simple. And as we wear these men out, I think they have to rely on that. So if I was really smart, I wouldn't have forgotten between game 3 and 4 all the things that I learned in the first 3 games, but somehow I seemed to, and then slept for a week, got up and said, hey, let's go back to do what we were doing in the first 3. Okay, why don't we try that? So I don't think it kind of works like that.
Any other questions for Coach?
It was a million months ago, obviously, but the game up there was probably one of the more wild games in the league all season. How much of that was...
Regular season?
Yes. Wasn't
Okay,
like,
finish the question.
and did you notice it? You're the king of saying momentum does not carry over.
Yeah.
Once a puck drops, it's a new day and all that. In the 2 games this year, did they feel like finals rematches, or was it just the 24-25 Panthers against the 24-25 Oilers?
I thought if there was any difference between teams that we had played in the playoffs a year prior and then played them again, in the past, they were really nasty games. And this one, I thought both teams had a great amount of respect for each other. They were played hard, they were played right, but, and part of that is they're in the Western Conference, so we don't see them 4 times, you know, I mean, Tampa, by the time we're done playing them 3 times in exhibition and we get them, it's on, right? Because of the separation in conferences, I thought they were pretty good games. I think both teams had a bunch of guys out of the lineup at times, and I'm just saying that because when we're watching some of it, that guy's not in the lineup, that guy's not in the lineup, and that's true of both teams. It's a lot of changes. We wouldn't put a lot of weight into the games or the way. I just remember thinking nobody was looking for a pound of flesh in those games.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Okay, guys.